let's talk a little bit more about some more complex conditional statements that sort of build on this concept of if and if then else. The first thing we're going to look at is the multi-way branch. And so the idea is it's kind of like the if then else where you're going to pick one of two, but now we can pick one of three or one of four or one of five. And it introduces a new concept called the LF. The LF is another reserved word inside Python. And the way it works is it's probably best to look at this here where it checks the first one, and if it's a true, then it runs that and then it's done. It doesn't check them all. It's not like it sees that there are two logical conditions. It actually checks them, the first one, and how you order these matters, as we'll see in a bit. And so if the first one is true, it runs. If the first one is false and the second one is true, it runs this one and it's done. And if the neither of them are true, it falls through and there's an else clause that is otherwise, and it runs that. So basically it's either going to run one and then skip the other two, or it is going to skip skip one, skip two, and then run this one. But it only runs, in this case, one of them. But the important thing is it checks these questions in order. And it doesn't check the second question until it finds that the first, it doesn't check the second question until it knows the first question is false. So if the first question is true, you're done. You're done, and you're done with this. You're done with the whole block at that point. So only one of these three is going to execute in that block. So here's sort of some examples of this. If we, for example, have x equals 0, it's going to come down here. X is less than true. That's true. So it runs this code, and then it skips down to that. And so it's like this, runs that code, and then skips to the end. Okay. On the other hand, if it's 5, then this is false, and it skips that, and it checks this. This is true. It runs this code, and then it's done, skips to the end. It goes like false, true, run, end. And then if x is like 20, for example, it runs, false, false, run the else clause, and you're done. So skip, oh, else, Run that code and you're done. So in this case, we ran that and we didn't run that and we didn't run that. Again, one of them is going to run. They're checked in order. These questions are checked in order, not out of order. It doesn't look ahead. It just checks in the order that you wrote it. You're the one that wrote that order. And so there's a couple of variations on this multi-way. You can have no else. You can have no else, as in this case. And this just means that it might not run any of them. In this case, x is 5, so it's not less than 2, but then it runs this one. But if x was like 50, for example, if x was 50, then this would be false, then it would skip, and this would still be false, and it would skip, and neither of these two would run. So if you don't have an else, you're not guaranteed that one of them is going to run, because else is like the catch-all. If the other ones are all false, then the else is the one that runs. You can have many LFs, but this is where it's really important for you to make sure you know what order they're being taken in. So I've got, this, if this is true, it runs, it goes all the way to the bottom. If, this was, if it's false, 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 true, it runs this one and it's done. If, on the other hand, it looks at it as false, oops, go back. If it runs false, 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 they're all false, then it runs the else, right? This one has an else, this one didn't have an else. They don't have to have them. The key is you can have more than one of these elifs, okay? So I got a couple little things. I'll let you pause right now and look at, the question is, are there, looking at the 3 lines or 4 lines of code, x equals something. Are there lines of code that will never execute regardless of the value for x? And I'll let you pause and think about it, and then I'll explain it to you. Okay, hopefully you paused and thought about it as long as you like. But